Hello and welcome to today's episode of Make Michael Suffer, which is Troll 2. And let me just say, I can't wait to see what those pesky trolls are up to. So let me start by saying that Troll 2 doesn't have any trolls in it, but does have a lot of goblins.
A goblin?
And even better than that, it takes place in the town of Nilbog, and if that sounds a little bit suspicious, well, that's because...
Nilbog! It's goblin spelled backwards!
Other than the fact that Troll 2 has no trolls in it, there are plenty other things that are weird about it, such as this ominous warning. Or the fact that nobody finds all of the extremely green food to be strange, whether they're alone.
Here, eat this.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thanks, Sheriff. This is good.
Or when they're in a group. Speaking of that green food, it has the ability to turn the people who eat it into plants that then the goblins can eat. Luckily, in that last scene, nobody ended up eating any of that green food because Joshua pissed on all the food.
I must do it!
And the green food brings me to the next point. Troll 2 seems to be weirdly, somehow, an anti-vegetarian film. And since the goblins have to make the people into plants before they eat them, they're obviously very passionate about being vegetarians.
Eggs. Bacon.
Are you crazy, boy? We're vegetarians here in Nilbog. Didn't you know that?
In fact, they're so passionate that they've made an entire religion around vegetarianism.
Symbol of original sin, which is consumed steaks, the steak sausages, and hot dogs, sold by the side of the road.
And speaking of those vegetarian goblins, oh, do they look amazing. But don't worry, the goblins aren't the only glorious looking thing in this film. There's also these obviously real freckles.
With huge eyes the color of the sea.
Wonderful green sweat throughout the entire film.
He was sweating chlorophyll green.
And of course a witch who does not know how to apply blush.
I am Credence Leonor Gilgud of ancient Druid origins.
And don't worry, Troll 2 also features some amazing acting combined with some superb writing, and that makes some fantastic scenes such as these. So this scene starts with a girl who's obviously running away from something, and the guy who's watching her run away, what do you think he does? He tackles her.
Stop, I say!
Also, for a second, can we talk about the weird musical choice here? It definitely doesn't build any tension. But moving on, of course a little bit after this, the guy gets injured as well. And then the two decide to take refuge in this house.
Let's hide in this house.
Now, neither of them find this truly bizarre house to be weird, and that allows them to be poisoned by the most obvious witch who's ever been on screen, which then leads to the girl turning into a plant.
She's changing!
And the guy can only watch in horror.
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my god!
Let me just say they do come back to this later, and that leads to what I dub the Great Plant Escape.
Hurry.
Or I guess this would have been the Great Plant Escape if the witch hadn't come back in and stopped them, and then did this.
You just feel a little tickle, little flower.
And speaking of that witch, she's got a lot of heritage.
My ancestors came
from Stonehenge. Thought you might enjoy one of my ancient recipes.
Clearly, she's from a rich cultural background, being as she's descended from Stonehenge people, and has ancient recipes such as frosted cake. But most importantly, being descended from those Stonehenge people allows you to use your own personal Stonehenge to become sexy. And this allows Troll 2 to have quite possibly the most bizarre sex scene in movie history, which starts with the witch using seductive corn. And finally, it finishes in the best way possible. And now, after all that weirdness, you're probably wondering what ties Troll 2 together, and that would be Joshua's phantom grandfather. And the grandfather comes back several times throughout the movie, such as a floating head.
Joshua! Joshua!
And floating head grandpa has some explaining to do, because he only appears to Joshua, who nobody believes, and he offers the most feeble excuse as to why.
But why don't you tell my mommy and daddy these things?
They don't listen to me.
So later on in the movie, it's very clear that the family is completely useless, and for that reason they decide to contact Grandpa through a seance. And somehow during the seance, it makes Joshua get replaced by a goblin, which leads to, of course, another fantastic musical selection. And where did Joshua end up? At the witch's place somehow, where of course he's immediately attacked, but don't worry, Grandpa shows up in a beautiful Deus Ex Machina and delivers this fantastic punch. Luckily, Grandpa has time to explain how to defeat the witch, because she's still busy with popcorn sex.
No more popcorn.
But before Grandpa's plan can be enacted, he disappears and Joshua's attacked. How does he get out of this, you ask? With a bologna sandwich. And then, after escaping from the goblins using the bologna sandwich, he and his family are able to dispel the goblins using the power of goodness while touching the Stonehenge.
Don't you see? Only the power of goodness can destroy these monsters.
So yeah, if you're ever attacked by a roving band of vegetarians, just remember to always carry a bologna sandwich with you and to have the power of goodness in your heart. But hey, it can't end there, right? What about Troll 3? Well, don't worry. Troll 3 is set up in, of course, the most logical way possible, and that's by the mom dying at the end.
Joshua.
And now I can say the desire for Troll 3 is deep within my heart, along with the power of goodness. So, Troll 2 overall is a movie. Well, it's a real mess, and nothing about it was done competently, but it does have a plot that's followed throughout the entire movie, which is something a lot of bad movies can't say, and in the hands of more competent actors and actresses, and maybe a better director, might have turned out about on par with your average sci-fi original. So, on the suffer meter, I have to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Pretty funny, not that bad, terrible movie, but you can get through it. And as far as entertainment, I give it 1 goblin out of 10 trolls. And stay tuned for the Mars of Destruction video later this week. While it doesn't have the fantastic squids that Skelter Heaven had, it does have this.
Let's go back.